let me just get this to the correct terminology. This is the post-indictment arraignment conference, was adjourned to August 7th, all right? Pending PTI. You heard that right. Her post-indictment arraignment conference has been adjourned, till August 7th. Pending PTI. Now, for some of you that say, well, what's going on? What does that mean? You probably know, well, if you don't know what adjourn means, just another word for means it got rescheduled, okay? So essentially what I've said is her post-indictment arraignment conference has been rescheduled to August the 7th. Pending PTI. Now, pending PTI. What is PTI, you may ask, NJ Courts? Let me explain that to you. All right. It's kind of like a, well, I'm just trying to figure out the easiest way to put this to make sense. Well, I'll tell you exactly what it means first, right? Let's start with that. Definition of PTI. PTI is a pretrial intervention diversion program. Pretrial intervention diversion program. Okay? Now, what is happening is her lawyer is trying to get her into this program. Okay? So essentially, instead of her taking a plea deal, instead of her going into a jury trial, now her lawyer, and maybe this was discussed between obviously her and the lawyer, I would imagine, has now essentially applied or submitted an application for Controlla to these PTI. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you something. All right? What is a PTI program? Let's start with that. All right? Okay. So it's kind of like a diversionary program. It's kind of like probation, easiest way to put it, okay? It has conditions, obviously, just like in probation, and whomever is enrolled in it has to comply with those conditions, just like probation, all right? There's things like fines, depending on the type of case, there could be drug tests, drug screening, yada, yada, yada. Most of you understand what probation means. That's pretty much what this diversionary program is. They just give it a fancy name is all, okay? It's probably going to be, obviously, I would imagine if her attorney is trying to file or submit for this, I would imagine it's probably got to be a lot easier than the plea deal if she takes it. And boy, oh boy, obviously it's not going to be as harsh as what she'd receive as sentencing if she was found to be guilty. All right. Now, here is the kicker. Okay. Here is the breaking news. Let's just pretend you already knew all that, which I doubt you did. But let's just say you did, right? All right, we knew, we looked it up, okay? It's public information, so rightfully, all of you could have looked this up, all right? You sitting there and say, you know what, NJ, I already looked it up. I saw there's a next date's going to be August 7th. Well, you might have been right about that, but you may have missed some more other public information because you had to look a little bit further into this. But if you had looked a little bit further past the new court date, you would have found out this. The reason that her attorney is most likely filing for this PTI program now is because something has changed in regarding to the charges Controlla is now facing. Yes, you've heard that right. Something has now changed regarding the charges Controlla is now facing. Let me give you that update. And this is all going to probably make sense here now when I go over this. So we already were well aware that she was indicted on the second-degree endangering of a child. So that's old news, not new news. Maybe new news to some of y'all just joining in today for the first time. But the breaking news, or in addition to the breaking news, is this. There has now been a second charge that has been added to this case. Yes, you heard that right. A second charge has now been added to this case. That charge for you. So, in addition to the second-degree endangering of a child felony charge, there is now going to be a third-degree hindering charge added. Third-degree hindering charge added. This is going to be with two disorderly persons attached to that hindering charge. Or, to the charges completely. We obviously know one is going to be her daughter, And the second, which we already talked about, was the passenger of the vehicle. So let me repeat this again. Post-indictment conference has been adjourned or basically rescheduled to August the 7th. Reason being, in the meantime, the attorney, now remember, this is not just done automatically. This was requested. This was done because the attorney now is asking for more time, essentially, to submit an application for their defendant, their client, which is Controlla, to possibly enroll and become an applicant of the PTI program, okay? Which, like we said before, is kind of like a probation. Now, I'm going to explain something very important to everybody. I'm not sure if Controlla was aware of this. I'm pretty sure her attorney probably explained this to her, but just in case he didn't, and Controlla, if you're watching, let me just fill you in on some details on this program. The program has enrollment restrictions, essentially. Kind of, like if you're applying for college, right? Certain colleges, especially if you want to go to like a fancy college like Harvard, you got to have a certain GPA, certain, la da da da, la da da da. You get where I'm going, right? Now, same thing with this program. This program, you have to meet certain conditions, essentially. They're very strict on the condition that you don't have any past felonies, which if you're not aware of, this individual does have past felonies. I'm not going to get into them today, but to my knowledge, I know they have one. I've been told they have two. What I've personally read about that I can verify is one of those felonies, but I've been told that this individual does actually have two felonies on their record. This does. Now, it may not. Now, again, I'm not speaking for that program, okay? I'm just saying it's going to be a little bit more difficult to be accepted into a program like this, essentially a probation of a probation, this is essentially something I think you would see more for like first-time offenders, essentially, all right? But, hey, what the hell? If the court allows it, the court said, hey, yeah, we'll extend you, a hearing till, we'll extend the post-indictment conference till August 7th. Well, because it is your right, they can't deny a right for you and your client to submit to this program. Now, whether they're going to accept you, we don't know. We can't say. But there are some conditions, and they're very well aware of those, okay? So I would say this is probably, in the terms of football, like a Hail Mary. Another word is like a long shot. I like to use the word buying time, but that's what's going on right now. So